You've just found Windell's Stories, a place for those who still believe there's wonder beyond the stars and truth inside fiction. If you're ready for a story of love, identity, and the echoes of humanity light years from home, then press play, like, and subscribe for more worlds worth remembering.
The year was 2425. Earth had been at war since it was created. Now only two factions remained, and for the time being, they weren't shooting at each other. On one side were most of the nations in America, Australia, the Philippines, Japan, Cambodia, and Vietnam. On the other were Russia, China, half of Africa, and India. The rest of the nations were trying to stay neutral. With each war, technology advanced, faster, deadlier, and more terrifying. The last war wiped out half of Earth's population, so the current leaders were cautious. They didn't want to fight. Not yet, anyway. Now their battleground was beyond Earth, each faction racing to discover habitable worlds outside the Milky Way. The Americans went one way, the Chinese another. The directions were random. I don't care what the scientists say. Their explanations didn't explain anything. 10 pages of scientific jargon that said absolutely nothing. The American side found a world. A populated one. Crossing the boundary to get there? That was the hard part. 60,000 degrees. You try finding any material that can handle that. I don't know how they managed it. Someone told me it was like fighting fire with fire. You build a fire to put out a fire, he said. I didn't get it, but he got me through. And now here I am. We call it the other world. Those of us who live here, we just call it Earth. Or home. I doubt I'll ever see my Earth again. The scientists said they didn't want to interfere with the natural evolution of this world, so they stayed hidden. But they still sent me to blend in. I learned the language. It reminded me of Hebrew, actually. I already spoke 10 languages. That's why they chose me. Learning this one was easy. Compared to our Earth, this world would be somewhere around 800 years after the birth of Christ. I settled in a land. I don't know the exact translation. It feels like England back home. So for now, just think of it as England. Only different. I'm living in Westdock, just outside of Frankshire. Now remember, I'm translating everything. These cities aren't actually called that. It's just how I render the names in my head. Still, it's strange how these people look exactly like those of us raised in the Milky Way. Even the same racial distinctions. Back home, I'm called Caucasian. Here, we're Varen. Our kind are said to have migrated from the Varen Mountains, a range so ancient even the locals speak of it with reverence. Those we'd call Asian back home are known here as Lissari. They hail from the Lissari coast, across the Laotian Sea, land of shimmering pearl-colored cliffs and deep-rooted wisdom traditions. Their habits, customs, even some of their mannerisms, strikingly familiar. And then there are the Dmara, what we'd recognize as African. They descend from the sun-soaked Dmara lowlands, south of the equator, in lands said to be the cradle of echoes, where the voices of ancestors still ride the wind. Of course, there are differences too. There are no feathered animals, no chickens, eagles, or anything like birds as we know them. Nothing with feathers at all. The flying creatures here are more like bats, assuming they're mammals, or more accurately, like pterodactyls if they're reptiles. It's hard to tell sometimes. They glide more than flap, and when you look at their wings up close, it's less feather, and more membrane stretched over bone. Creepy. Beautiful. Alien. My roommate Zari has a pet Larda, basically a pterodactyl. The crazy thing follows him everywhere, like a dog with wings and attitude. It hates me. Every time I get within a foot, it hisses like I owe it money. I told Zari I'd clean up after it, but don't ask me to feed the thing, not unless he wants it to chew my arm off. Zari just laughs and holds it in his lap. It purrs. Like a cat. Speaking of cats, they've got animals here that look like house cats, but they weigh 50 kilos. Yeah, I'll pass. Yesterday, Zari and I went to a gathering. Well, the closest thing I can call church. They call it Vireth. It begins in silence, not absence, but presence. That kind of hush that presses gently on the soul, like still air before a storm or snowfall, so deep it absorbs the world. Then came the first prayer. They don't kneel, not like we do. They lift their hands toward the ceiling and whisper in harmony. Anyone may pray, man or woman, but priesthood is held by all men, not just the leader. They call him Jah. The pews, 3 rows in a wide circle, surround a crystalline skylight above. The light filters through it like water in motion. In the center, Jah sits, flanked by his 2 counselors. We sang, not as we do back home. Their music is more like humming than melody, and yet you feel it settle deep in your chest. It becomes part of you. Amazing. And Jah, the more I learn, the more uncanny the parallels become. They believe he healed, wept, taught love, and gave his life to protect even those who betrayed him. They speak his name with the same ache I've heard in churches back home. I'm starting to believe maybe he's real. And maybe he's not just theirs. The service ended as it began, in prayer. This one softer, more personal. Eyes closed, palms pressed over hearts. Jah spoke the closing words. And instead of amen, they hummed, low and deep. A quiet release. Zari took me to meet his sister, Bonet. What a beautiful woman, blonde hair, blue eyes, about 25 years old. Oh, and by the way, time works differently here. There are 20 hours in a day, which translates to about 24 and a half Earth hours on my old watch. 20 minutes to an hour, 20 seconds to a minute. Yeah, I'm still catching up. 20 days in a month, 15 months in a year. The year's not quite the same as ours, but it seems to work fine in this world. Anyway, Bonet, she's a little shy. When we met, she gave her brother a look that, for a second, made me think she was about to slap him. Later, though, she asked me to, well, for your sake, let me put it plainly, to marry her. I said yes, without hesitation. And now, I'm wondering whether Captain Wilson's going to have something to say about it. So that's it. I'm caught up with the journal for now. I'm meeting with Captain Wilson and the scientist tonight. Wish me luck. Lieutenant Jonah Blake, Kaelen Vireth, to the locals, climbed to the top of Koloft Mountain, where the Earth team remained hidden behind a force field. He scanned the empty ridge and said, "Okay, Captain. No one's around. Open the door." With a soft hiss, a metal panel slid open in the granite wall. Jonah stepped quickly into the cool, Earth modern room. Monitors flickered on metal tables. The air conditioning hummed, 23 degrees inside, 43 outside. The difference hit like a memory of another world.
"Wow,"
muttered Captain Wilson.
"It's brutal out there."
"Yeah," Jonah said, wiping the sweat from his brow. Wilson didn't waste time.
"Why in the world would you tell that girl you'd marry her?"
Jonah cracked a smile. "Captain, you're starting to understand the language." Wilson gave a grudging nod.
"Maybe, but I don't know how you speak it that fast. Now answer the question."
Jonah's face turned serious. "Captain, we're not going home. And if we ever do, everyone we know will be dead." Wilson held his gaze. He knew Jonah was right.
"But if you marry her,"
he said quietly,
"eventually they'll find out who we really are. You'll lead them straight to us. You don't want that, do you?"
Tamara Embry, the lead scientist, stood.
"Captain, this is an opportunity for us to really learn about these people."
The captain looked hard at her. Then Jamie Hall, the sociologist, said,
"Eventually, sir, we will all have to integrate. That's why I've been so insistent on all of us learning the language."
Captain Wilson exhaled slowly, the tension hanging thick in the cool air of the bunker. He glanced from Tamara to Jamie, then back to Jonah, Kaelen, his lieutenant caught between protocol and something dangerously close to belonging. He remembered his wife's voice the night she died. That was a year before he left Earth.
"Our children will be dead. Even our grandchildren will be dead. You understand? Before you get back to Earth, we will all be gone."
She whispered.
"If you meet people out there, don't get too close. You won't survive the goodbye."
He hadn't answered. He'd already forgotten how to.
"Integrate,"
Wilson echoed.
"That wasn't the mission."
No,
Jamie said gently.
but neither was falling in love, and that's already happened. With all due respect, sir, we're not just observers anymore.
Tamara nodded.
"You saw the report, Captain. Genetically, culturally, even spiritually, There are parallels we never imagined. This isn't just first contact. It's contact with a reflection.
Wilson looked down at the table, fingers drumming against the edge.
Reflection or not, one slip, and we expose the entire operation.
And if we never open the door to understanding,
Tamara said softly.
why are we even here?
Silence settled again, not unlike the one that began the Vireth service. Waited, expectant. Then Jonah spoke. Permission to return tomorrow, sir. I told her I'd walk with her to the Sun Market. Wilson didn't look up.
You already said yes to something bigger.
Jamie offered a small smile. Maybe it's time we all start saying yes. Captain Wilson looked hard at Lieutenant Blake, then thought of Kaelen Vireth.
Yeah, you'd better show up in the morning.
He said.
Are you keeping up with that journal?
Yes, sir. March 8th, 24:35, 1930 hours. Local time, 7 cycle, 12th day, year 728 to 1930 hours. I'm meeting Bonet at 0800 tomorrow at the Tekta for breakfast. We had doce, a kind of sweet bread made from something like wheat, sweetened with honey produced by bees that look like bumblebees, but behave exactly like the honeybees we had on Earth. We drank a kind of milk, mild, slightly tangy, similar to goat's milk back home. The Sun Market spreads across Main Street in Frankshire. It's where local farmers and craftsmen set up booths and sell their goods. They do this every second week, all year long. It's the hot season now. Average temperatures hover around 38 degrees. Yesterday, it peaked at 43. And believe me, that's hot. Using forge money we created in the hidden press beneath Koloff Mountain, I bought myself a tavrek, what we call a tunic back home, a pair of lenvas trousers, a maura, a light cloak, and a set of threnbands, leather wrist wraps dyed in earth tones. For Bonet, I chose an orel, a flowing gown stitched with sun thread, a soft elkina undershift, a pale chowra head drape, and a woven miral sash, the kind women wear when they're claimed or courting. I didn't ask her which one she meant it to be. Cultural note: the miral sash signifies intention, courtship, or commitment. Personal annotation: I didn't ask because I think I knew. Bonet glowed as she sifted through bolts of cloth. I let her choose the colors, and then, smiling, she asked if I'd match mine to hers. It was fun, actually. Intimate in a quiet way. Then she asked what I did for a living. I wasn't ready for that. So I lied. Told her that, back home, I was a businessman. Said I'd saved up a little money. And now I'm going to buy what they'd call a forge-a-ken. Blacksmith shop back in our words. I'll keep the smith working there. Pay him as an employee. Or, as they'd say, a servant. Technically not lying, just shaping the truth to fit the forge. Oh, the captain called me in my ear. I have to meet him again tonight after I take Bonet home. We passed beneath the sun-veined canopies that lined the north quarter, and the air still carried the scent of spiced grain and pollen. She wore the orel I bought her, sky-tinted, fluttering slightly as she walked. If this ever reaches Earth, if anyone still reads these things, tell Commander Braith I did what he asked. Tell my sister I remember the way she used to hum when she made coffee. Tell them I didn't forget how to be human. I just learned how to be something else, too. But in the back of my mind, I could already feel the cold waiting at the top of Koloft. The captain never summoned lightly. The moment Lieutenant Blake reached the hidden door, it opened. He stepped inside. Without preamble, the captain said,
We want to learn interface with the people.
Jonah blinked. But, Captain, none of you can speak without an accent. Tamara stepped forward.
I'm your cousin from Germania. That's why we have accents.
Jonah raised an eyebrow. You don't have a Germanian accent.
Then where?
Jamie burst out.
We have to get out of this mountain. I'm going crazy.
Jonah held up a hand. All right. Speak to me, each of you. I need to hear your accents. Maybe we can figure something out. One by one they spoke. Not rehearsed phrases, but natural language, small talk, planning, fragments of frustration. Jonah listened and laughed. They sounded like children learning to talk. Understandable, but off. Wrong forms, strange phrasing. The captain? Germania might work. He had the clipped cadence and neutral tone to pull it off. To Mara, though, no way. She looked Lasari and sounded Mara. She'd need to claim Bora Bora just to explain the mix. Jamie looked Mara, and thankfully, Bora Bora suited him just fine. Okay, Captain, Jonah began, we need to give you local names and stop using our birth names altogether, so we don't slip. Agreed.
Sounds reasonable.
You've got a Germanian accent, Jonah continued, studying him. Let's go with something solid. How about Yarrick Vaughn? You could be my uncle. He grinned.
Uncle Yarrick, huh?
Jonah smiled. Exactly.
Well then, little Kaelen.
The captain said with a nod.
That'll do just fine.
Jonah turned to Tamara. You look Lasari, but sound Mara. How do we explain that? Tamara paused, thoughtful.
My Lasari parents died in an accident.
She said quietly.
Jamie's parents raised me.
Jonah nodded. That works. You're Kaelen Vireth. And Jamie, he turned. You're Oren Delith. The captain stood, held his shoulders back, and said as best he could in Kaelen.
I am Yarrick Vaughn, remember that.
Following his lead, Tamara said in Kaelen.
I am Kaelen Vireth.
Kaelen said, that is pronounced Kaelen Vireth. Kaelen took a deep breath.
Kaelen Vireth.
Better. Oren shook his head.
Orindalith.
Kaelen stood and said, and I am Kaelen Vireth. Kaelen looked at Kaelen. What do you know about Mara? She hesitated. Jarrick's voice cut in.
Kaelen, go to the Dmara files. Learn everything you can. You can't claim to be Dmarin and know nothing about it.
He turned to Oren.
Join her. Learn together. From this moment, your adoptive brother and sister.
Yes, sir, they said in unison. Yarrick exhaled, the weight of new identities settling on each of them.
And I need to learn about Germania,
he added, deliberately shaping the word with his tongue.
Kaelen, if you're my nephew, we need to coordinate.
Oren tapped the console, pulling up an old census entry.
Kaelen, we've got a problem. Dmara families don't adopt Lasari children. Ever. At least not openly.
Kaelen folded her arms.
Then how do we explain me?
Yarrick frowned.
Maybe the records were sealed. Maybe someone owed your parents a life debt. Or maybe...
Kaelen turned toward her, eyes narrowing slightly. Or maybe you're not meant to explain it. Maybe that's part of your mystery. Oren raised a brow.
That's dangerous.
Exactly, Kaelen said. Which means it might work. Kaelen folded his arms. So that's the story, then? Lasari girl raised by Dmara. Kaelen nodded once.
It's what we have.
Oren gave a short sigh.
All right. But just know, the Dmara don't adopt lightly. They marry only their own, raise only their own. So if anyone questions it, lean into the mystery.
Kaelen looked up from the terminal.
What mystery?
Kaelen smirked. The kind that makes people too curious to accuse you, and too afraid to ask twice. Yarrick turned from the display wall.
Let's hope it works.
Kaelen laughed and corrected Jarrick's sentence. Let's hope it works, in the proper tense. Yarrick raised an eyebrow.
What?
Kaelen grinned. It's let's hope it will work, Uncle Yarrick. If we're going to fool half of Frankshire, we might as well sound like we passed our basic grammar. Yarrick smirked, barely hiding the amusement in his voice.
You're lucky it's me that outranks you, little Kaelen. I could assign you to compost detail until your hair turns gray.
You've been saying that since my first field exam, Kaelen shot back. Kaelen chuckled from behind her tablet.
He's not wrong, though. If we're claiming roots, we'd better learn to speak like natives. And like family.
Oren added.
Then someone teach me how to argue like a Dmarin sibling, because I think I'm about to start.
Captain, Kaelen stumbled. I mean Yarrick. His face turned red.
Watch it.
Yarrick said. Yarrick, Kaelen started again. I really need to go back down soon, or they will wonder what I'm up to. Yarrick gave a low grunt, his version of understanding.
All right, but next time you stumble like that in front of a Vireth counselor, we're pulling you off the board.
Kaelen smirked. Noted. I'll practice in the mirror. Uncle Yarrick, Uncle Yarrick, Uncle Yarrick. Maybe 3 times fast will unlock a secret door. Yarrick didn't smile, but his eyes flicked with dry amusement.
Go. But keep your calm on. If the Dmera market rumors are true, we may need you back before dawn.
Kaelen gave a small nod and turned toward the exit. The airlock hissed, cool and mechanical, a stark contrast to the last few hours under the honey-filtered canopies. Behind him, Salen's voice echoed faintly from the records room.
Kaelen has 6 honorifics depending on tone. Did you know that?
He didn't. But he was about to walk back into a world where tone could save his life. March 9th, 2435, 1800 hours. Local time, 7 cycle, 13th day. Year 728 to 1800 hours. The whole team is preparing to join the locals. I'm worried. Their accents are still pronounced. From this point forward, Captain Wilson is Yarrick Vaughn. Tamara Embry becomes Salen Vireth. Jamie Hall is now Oren Delith. I've been Kaelen Vireth for a while. I'm meeting Bonet Gara later today. We'll be married in 2 days. Zari, my roommate, is starting to wonder where I've been. I need a cover. I've officially purchased a blacksmith shop. I'll tell her I had to travel to Bloodstow to finalize things with the current owner. Technically true. I did check on him. Just remotely from the lab. March 10th, 2435, 1824 hours. Local time, 7 cycle, 14th day. Year 728 to 1824. Yarrick came with me today. I introduced him to Bonet as Uncle Yarrick. She noticed his accent, said nothing directly, but I could see it in her eyes. He told her it was his first time leaving Germania. I think she believed him. Mostly. Salen and Oren walked into the village together. That turned heads. A Lasari and a Dmara, together like siblings? That just doesn't happen. But their accents, perfect. They sound Marin. It works.
Salen stood by the window of their temporary quarters, watching 2 children chase a bright cloth down the street.
You're walking too stiffly.
Oren said behind her. She turned. I'm Dmarin. We're supposed to walk with pride.
No.
He said, grinning.
You're a Lasari raised by Dmerans. You think you're walking with pride, but really, you're still weighing the room. Just walk naturally, Biu.
She raised an eyebrow. And you, what kind of Dmarin brother critiques posture?
The kind who's terrified we're going to slip and end up buried in some village field with a stone that says, "Here lies Oren and Salen, liars and linguists."
She laughed, quiet and dry. Then maybe we rehearse it again. The story.
Again.
He groaned, then shrugged.
Fine. I was 7 when your parents died. My mother brought you in with nothing but a cracked pendant and a fever.
You were scared of me, she added.
Because you stole my blanket the first night, and you're Lasarian.
They both smiled. It was a lie. But they made it sound like memory. After a pause, Salen asked, what if someone calls it out? Says we don't act like siblings.
We improvise.
How? He picked up a small pillow and lobbed it gently at her shoulder.
By arguing in public. Loudly.
She threw it back. Very Dmarin of you.
7 cycle, 15th day. Year 728, 1930 hours. Bonet and I were married today. Yarrick Vaughn gave me away. That felt strange. The Jah held us both together and said that we had to know what we were doing, because it is a permanent contract. And we could never go, I don't know the translation really, but bankrupt in this marriage. I am her galla, and she is to treat me as only a galla should be treated. She is my Kaelen, and only her. The lab only has 14% power left. Yarrick said that we are to create gold coins and split them between us, and then completely destroy the lab.
Colonia Carid. I've just received another transmission from the journal.
Said Dodia Pluver. Let me see, Carid said. They waited as the computer translated the message. When it finished, Carid's expression fell. This may be the last one. He says their power is almost gone, and they are fully integrating with the local culture.
One thing's certain.
Pluver said softly.
Whoever they were, those people from the Milky Way, wherever that is, they were brilliant.
Carid nodded. two worlds, light years apart, yet one truth remains.
And what's that?
Pluver asked. Vireth turned, his voice quiet with wonder. We live. We love. We search for meaning. We each have a savior. And for a while, each of us thought we were alone. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you believe in courage, in new names, or in promises made under foreign skies, then don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Windell Stories. There are more transmissions waiting, and some may still be listening.